welcome to GlitterCouch. I'm Brittany Decker. Romelisa Colton is behind the camera, and we're here today with Jessica Brooks Halter. She is a multimedia artist working out of Cheney.
Yeah.
So just tell us a little bit about yourself as a person. What hobbies do you like to do?
I enjoy my cats. I enjoy working on my art. I have a lot of different types of art that I work on, so it's nice, being able to kind of mix that up a little bit so I'm never bored. So I like doing that in my free time. I enjoy being outside when it's actually nice.
So for somebody who doesn't know what you do as an artist, can you describe your medium and exactly what it is that you make or do?
Yeah, so I like to play with different mediums. I first started out doing pen and ink drawings, and I basically do very abstracted forms. I liked to play with that and the surrealism rather than trying to create something realistically, because I wasn't good at anything, realistic. So I just went the opposite way, and I went very deliberately in that direction. And then I started exploring watercolor as well and combining that with pen and inks. And I remember someone telling me that I couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't mix those mediums, because it just makes your work somehow, I took it as it makes your work somehow degraded, or, nobody's going to take you seriously as an artist if you start mixing mediums. And so I decided to really go in that direction, mixing mediums, because nobody was buying my work anyway, so it was for me. And so I really started playing with that. And then when I got here, it was encouraged. It was something that was encouraged, and so I really started growing and working on and discovering more mediums. So I really enjoy printmaking, and then also, pen and inks and drawings. I do watercolors. I paint with wine and beer, mix that in with the watercolors, and I do a lot of ceramics and then also video work. So
like everything.
Yeah, yeah. Basically. And I just mash it all together, and it's like a pasta salad. You just start throwing everything in there, and hopefully it turns out good. So that's pretty much what I do.
I love that.
I just mash everything together and hope for the best.
So how did you get into art? How did you start your pathway into making art in the first place?
Well, so my mom is an artist, and she used to teach toll painting classes when I was little, and she would take my sister and I along with her, and we would watch her painting. And she went to WSU. She was in the art program there, and so I was always fascinated with what she was doing. And her work was usually more realistic. That was, even though everything was abstracted, it was still, I think that was her goal, was to create things that were more true to nature. And I was fascinated by that, and I would try to recreate different things, and I wasn't very good at it, and I was so frustrated with it. And that's why I went in the direction of creating things, giving myself permission to not have to create realistic representations of the world. And when I was in junior high, so I was never good at math. I was always terrible with it. So and part of it was I would get bored. So during class, I would draw all over my hands and stuff, and I would draw all over my homework, and I would create all sorts of patterns and things that would kind of take me away from having to listen to the teacher with all of the, algebra and all of that stuff. I didn't get it anyway, so I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to totally not be present. So that's kind of where it started. And it has, art and being able to create has helped me to kind of, I get into sort of my own world. It's sort of meditative. So it's really helped with a lot of situations early on, where I just needed to not be present where I was. And then it became this thing where it became much more meditational and relaxing for my mind. The more complex the drawings, the more of an ease I sort of feel in my brain. So it really helps. So that's kind of where I started.
So what is it that you're working on right now?
So right now I'm working on a number of things.
Oh, of course.
So I have, mostly I'm focusing on some digital art pieces that have to do with aspects of the body and some performance art, but the processes of the body and sort of isolating them so that kind of examine or concentrate on just those aspects and sort of remove them from context. So that's what I'm kind of working on right now.
And how do you usually go about starting a piece, or like what's your process to getting your work done?
A lot of it I start with because I have a little journal that I always carry with me, and so when I get ideas, I write them down, and then I start going through a process where I start adding to it and working through it. And I usually don't create what it was that I was brainstorming in the journal, but it helps me to get to an area where I can think of other things. Like it's part of that journey that I have to take in order to get to where my brain will function fully when it comes to like a certain idea or a certain piece. So a lot of it is sort of like this combination of being planned and also spontaneous. So it's sort of a weird mixture of that.
So you have some like almost, I call them globular forms in your 3D software work. What exactly are them?
That's a good question.
Or what are those going to be, I guess?
Well, I'm working on taking aspects of the body, like the internal body, and recreating them in my own mind. So when I imagine my inner body and what's going on in there, I have a different picture than, say, a doctor or a medical professional would, because they're used to seeing what the inner landscape looks like, what the inner organs look like. So when you're having a discussion with the medical provider, they're talking about this one organ, and in their mind it's most likely, they have it all mapped out. This is what it looks like, these are the different functions, blah blah blah. But then when I talk about those organs, to me it's just like this thing, like this, I don't have an accurate representation in my mind at all, and it's sort of like the essence of it is there, but I couldn't tell you, like I couldn't recreate it in a realistic fashion. So that's what they sort of represent, is that kind of reimagining or trying to kind of recreate something that is supposed to be a certain way, but it doesn't look that way, like in my mind. It's distorted. So it's sort of these specimens of like distorted organs and distorted ideas of what the inner body is. So it's
interesting.
So they're gross. Like I always imagine like what's going on inside of me is something gross. I'm like, oh, it's that weird blob in there again, like doing something. I don't know, but I always picture something that's just inaccurate, and Wikipedia and WebMD, here I come.
So thank you so much for answering all of our questions and joining us on the Glitter Couch.
Thank you for
And
having
thanks to everybody who is watching. I'm Brittany Decker. Reverend Lisa Colton is behind the camera. And thanks for watching.